No one destroys a man's life faster than the wrong woman. Stop. Right now. Not because this video is special, but because what you're about to hear might be the only thing standing between you and a lifetime of regret. You used to think, if I just love her enough, she'll change. You believed sacrifice was strength. You called your self-erasure compassion. You tore yourself apart every night and labeled it love. But Machiavelli would never agree. Because the truth is this: it's not that you weren't enough. It's that you chose wrong. Not the wrong woman, the wrong mindset. You saw love as the goal, the solution, the salvation. But to powerful men, love isn't a rescue mission. It's a strategic choice, a filter, a fortress gate. No one taught you that. Not your parents, not school, not society. And by the time you learn it, it's already too late. You're standing at the funeral of who you used to be, but there's no one there, because technically, you're still alive, just not living as yourself anymore. And the worst part, you killed him by loving too blindly. There's a kind of pain that never shows up in hospital scans. It doesn't bruise. It doesn't bleed. But it kills quietly. Completely. It's the pain of waking up next to someone who doesn't see you. Not really. It's the ache of sacrificing everything: your dreams, your time, your identity for a woman who calls your loyalty clingy, and your honesty too much. You were raised to believe that being a good man meant being available, buying soft, buying safe. So you did everything right. You showed up. You listened. You protected. You gave. And somehow that's exactly why she lost respect for you. That's the pain no one warns you about. The pain of realizing your kindness made you invisible. The pain of slowly fading out of your own life while still pretending to smile in hers. You became her rock. But who was your shelter? You gave her the best parts of you. Your presence, your patience, your power. And she used it not to build something with you, but to build herself and leave. And what did you do? You blamed yourself. You asked, was I too emotional? Was I not strong enough? Maybe if I just tried harder, she'd see my worth. No, that's the lie they trained you to believe. You weren't weak. You were just unprotected. You opened the gates of your life to someone who never planned to guard them. And now, you're living with a wound no one can see. Because if a man breaks down in silence, who the hell notices? She moved on. Your friends said, let it go. And you stayed behind, buried under the rubble of a future that will never be. And here's what stings the most. You knew. You felt it long before it fell apart. But you ignored your gut. Because you confused her chaos for chemistry. That's the real heartbreak. Not that she hurt you, but that you saw it coming and stayed anyway. Because part of you still thought, if I love her enough, maybe I'll finally become enough. But love doesn't save men. Its standards do. And when a man has no standards, he gets used, then replaced. This is the pain no one talks about. Because men don't get to grieve. We don't get to fall apart. We just collapse. In silence. No one throws you a lifeline. No one checks in. They just wait to see if you'll get over it. Orgo nump. And most choose numb. Because that's easier than admitting you built your world around someone who was never meant to live in it. You weren't born to break your own spine just to keep a woman from walking away. But that's what you were trained to do. From the moment you were a boy, you were told that your strength was dangerous, that your leadership was oppressive, that your emotions made you weak unless those emotions served someone else. They told you, Be kind. Be soft. Be understanding. Never make her uncomfortable. And so, you learned how to fold, how to lower your tone, how to suppress your instincts, how to apologize for your masculinity before anyone even questioned it. You became a man who asks for permission to speak, a man who calls silence peace, while choking on his own voice. And you called that love. But here's the truth. Love is not the surrender of self. It's the alignment of two sovereign beings, not a negotiation between a ghost and a goddess. You became the ghost. Because modern culture doesn't reward masculine clarity. It rewards emotional servitude. It tells you that being a good man means putting her first, even when she puts you last. That your value is determined by how well you can regulate her emotions, not your own. And then, when it all falls apart, they say, you must have done something wrong. Maybe you weren't man enough to handle her. But here's what they won't tell you. She was never meant to be handled. She was meant to be chosen wisely or not at all. Because when you choose the wrong woman out of guilt, loneliness, or social programming, you don't just lose love. You lose your center. You orbit her moods, her desire, her chaos, and slowly, you stop orbiting your own purpose. Machiavelli warned, he who allows himself to be deceived is already halfway conquered. You were conquered the moment you ignored the red flags and called them just a phase. You surrendered not because she was powerful, but because you were never taught how to guard your gate. This isn't about hating women. This is about understanding that in a world of performance and illusion, only the clear-headed survive. The man who leads with logic and discipline will be called cold. But the man who leads with emotion and blind loyalty, he'll be called X. You weren't broken by her. You were broken by a system that told you your worth comes from being needed, not being respected. And the most dangerous part, you believed it. That's the deeper mechanism. And that's what you must now destroy. If you've made it this far, you're not watching this video for entertainment. You're here because something inside you is waking up. This kind of content takes time, depth, and a lot of fire to create. If you believe these truths deserve to be heard, consider supporting the team by clicking the Super Thanks button below. It's not charity. It's fuel. Fuel for more clarity. Fuel for more videos that pierce the illusion. Fuel for helping more men rise. And if you haven't already, share, and subscribe to this channel, not just for content, but for a new code of honor, a mindset built on power, clarity, and truth. Now, let's continue. You think you're the exception. That's mistake number one. You think, I know she's a little chaotic, but she's been through a lot. She lashes out sometimes, but that's just her trauma. She doesn't respect me yet, but maybe she will, once I prove myself. Let me tell you something Machiavelli knew 500 years ago. The woman who disrespects you today will destroy you tomorrow. Respect is not something you earn through suffering. It's something you demand by presence alone. And if your presence doesn't command it, no amount of patience will fix that. But what do most men do? They try harder. They become more available, more understanding, more forgiving. And in doing so, they train her to believe one thing: I can treat this man however I want, and he will still stay. Mistake number two. You confuse her instability with passion. You mistake her jealousy for love, her drama for depth, her chaos for connection, because you were raised to believe that peace is boring, that a woman who's stable, calm, and grounded is too safe, too predictable, not exciting enough. So you chase the woman who makes your heart race, even though your intuition is screaming, run. And when she leaves, you say, I gave her everything. Why wasn't it enough? But here's the truth. She didn't want everything. She wanted control. And the moment you gave her that, the game was over. Mistake number 3. You build your self-worth around her validation. If she's happy, you feel strong. If she's cold, you feel worthless. If she's distant, you start doubting your entire identity. You wake up thinking, what can I do to fix this? What did I do wrong? How can I make her love me again? And while you spiral, she gains leverage. Because here's what most men never understand. The more you try to prove your worth, the more she doubts it. A man who needs to convince her has already lost her. Because women don't follow men who beg. They follow men who walk away when respect is gone. And here's mistake number 4. You think time equals loyalty. You think the years you've given her will one day pay off. That the longer you endure, the deeper the bond becomes. But Machiavelli knew, the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. You're not being loyal. You're just delaying your destruction. You saw the red flags. You just thought love would change them. But love doesn't change dysfunction. It amplifies it. Every month you stay, you teach her a new lesson. He won't leave. He'll forgive anything. He'll keep hoping, even when I stop trying. And the final mistake, you think you can save her. You make her your mission, your project, your proof of worth. But you weren't built to heal her wounds at the cost of your own soul. You are not her therapist. You are not her redemption arc. You are a man with a life, a mission, a throne. And every second you spend fixing a woman who doesn't want to grow is a second you betray the man you could become. Machiavelli never hated love. He just didn't trust it. Because he understood something most men today refuse to learn. Emotion is a weapon. And if you don't control it, it will be used to control you. He didn't write for poets. He wrote for rulers. And a ruler doesn't get the luxury of illusion. He doesn't fall in love with potential. He doesn't bend for emotion. He doesn't hand over power in exchange for comfort. He tests. He observes. He calculates. Because he knows. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are. And that applies to her, too. Most men choose a woman based on how she makes them feel. Machiavelli would ask, what does she do to your discipline? Does she sharpen your sword or dull it? Can she stand beside your fire without trying to put it out? If the answer is no, she's not your partner. She's your parasite. Machiavelli taught that power must be protected. Always. Because the moment you negotiate your authority, you've already lost it. And most men today, they don't lead. They negotiate. They apologize for their values. They soften their stance to avoid conflict. They water down their vision just to keep a woman from walking out. But here's what Machiavelli knew. It is far safer to be feared than loved. If you cannot be both. He wasn't saying to be abusive. He was saying to be respected. And if your woman does not fear losing you, she will never value keeping you. Fear not of violence, but of your absence. Because what costs nothing is valued at nothing. Modern men call that harsh. Machiavelli called it strategy. And here's why it matters. Power that is not guarded is always taken. And the man who lets love blind him, who lets desire overrule his discernment, is not a leader. He is a servant, a pawn in his own kingdom. He will call his collapse devotion. He will name his suffering commitment. But in truth, he abandoned his post. And no woman follows a man who abandons himself. Machiavelli would say, you don't lose her because you changed. You lose her because you never stood. And the more you bend, the more she breaks you. Because women don't want to lead you. They want to feel your strength. But if she senses that your strength is only performance, that your backbone folds when she cries, that your leadership collapses under pressure, she won't tell you. She'll simply stop admiring you. Then, stop trusting you. Then stop choosing you. And the most tragic part, you'll think she left because you weren't loving enough. But Machiavelli would whisper, no, she left because you gave her the throne. Let's get one thing clear. You were never weak. You were just uninformed, trained to believe that self-sacrifice is strength, conditioned to think that being good means being silent, soft, and submissive. But you're here now. That means you're ready to reclaim something. Not her, not the past, not the illusion of what could have been. What you're reclaiming is your frame. Because everything you lost, your confidence, your direction, your fire, didn't disappear. You gave it away, one boundary at a time, one apology too many, one red flag ignored. You don't need to become someone new. You need to return to the man you were before you were convinced that pleasing her mattered more than protecting your soul. This is where everything changes. From, how do I make her stay? To, what kind of woman deserves to stand beside me? From, what if I lose her? To, what will I lose if I keep her? From, she's my purpose. To, my purpose is non-negotiable, and she either strengthens it or she leaves. You have to stop measuring your worth by how well you can hold chaos together. Because that's not love. That's slavery in disguise. And Machiavelli would tell you, the prince who cannot protect himself does not deserve the crown. Your crown is your vision, your discipline, your ability to say, no, that doesn't serve my mission. No, that energy doesn't belong in my kingdom. And if she's not aligned with that, you don't compromise. You cut. Because clarity is not cruelty. Boundaries are not abuse. And walking away is not failure. It's the final proof that you've awakened. Here's the truth. If she can control your emotions, she controls your choices. And if she controls your choices, you've already abandoned your destiny. Let that sink in. This is about more than relationships. It's about leadership. You are the architect of your future, not her. Not her moods, not her opinions, not her approval. So stop orbiting her emotions. Start orbiting your mission. Because the man who orbits his mission will never need to beg for loyalty. He won't fear losing a woman. Because he knows the only thing worse than being alone is being with someone who drains the fire you were born to protect. Awareness is useless without action. You can understand the game. You can quote Machiavelli. You can say all the right things. But if you don't live differently, you're not awake. You're just another man pretending. So let's talk tactics. 1. Stop explaining your standards. Start enforcing them. If you say you go to the gym at 6 a.m. and she calls it too much, go anyway. If you have boundaries around time, phone access, or emotional manipulation, and she calls you controlling, hold the line. Because a woman who truly respects you doesn't need to be convinced of your values. She either aligns with them, or she removes herself. Your standards don't need to be justified. They need to be defended. 2. Watch how she reacts to no. Anyone can be sweet when you say yes. But say no. Set a boundary. Enforce your time. Protect your space. Then watch. If she withdraws affection, guilt trips you, plays silent games, you are not in a relationship. You are in a power struggle. And the second you fold, you train her to keep pushing. That's not love. That's psychological warfare. And the battlefield is your self-respect. 3. Stop rewarding bad behavior with attention. When she disrespects your mission, don't debate. Don't raise your voice. Don't beg to be understood. Withdraw. Not out of cruelty, but out of sovereignty. Because if every time she creates chaos, you respond with validation, she will learn. Disrespect gets results. You don't fight case. You deny it oxygen. 4. Observe her when she's bored. Anyone can be pleasant on vacation. Anyone can be romantic over dinner. Anyone can be supportive when the spotlight is on. But what about the quiet moments? When life is steady, when nothing dramatic is happening, does she find peace? Or does she create problems just to feel alive? Because a woman who needs chaos to feel connection will burn down your entire kingdom just to feel something. 5. Test her in your absence. Disappear. Not to punish, to observe. You want to know who she really is. Don't ask her. Step back and watch. Does she hold the frame? Does she protect what you've built? Or does she seek attention, validation, or drama? The second you're not feeding her ego. Most men never test this. Why? Because they're terrified of the answer. But Machiavelli would say, a fortress is only as strong as its gates. Your presence cannot be the only thing holding the relationship together. If she falls apart when you're not watching, she was never stable to begin with. 6. Track your energy. How do you feel after being with her? Drained, doubtful, distracted, confused, or focused? Calm, grounded, clear. Your nervous system knows what your mind refuses to admit. Trust it. If her presence constantly destabilizes your purpose, that's not partnership. That's slow, emotional erosion. This is how you apply what you've learned. Not by talking louder, but by moving differently. No more asking her to change. No more proving your worth. From now on, she rises to meet your frame, or she leaves. That's not toxic. That's the minimum requirement to enter your kingdom. Forget everything you thought strength was. It's not the loudest voice in the room. It's not flexing muscles or collecting women. It's not aggression. It's not dominance. Real strength is clarity, quiet, unshakable, non-negotiable. It's when your energy walks into a room and people adjust without you saying a word, because they can feel. This man doesn't move for approval. This man doesn't argue to be understood. This man cannot be pulled off purpose. That's power. Not the power to control others, but the power to remain unmoved in a world that profits from your collapse. Because here's the truth. In a society where men are taught to fold, to please, to serve emotion over mission, a man who stands firm is seen as dangerous, and they'll call you all kinds of names. Controlling, toxic, egotistical, cold. Let them talk. Machiavelli would say, the prince must not worry about being hated by a few, if it means being feared by those who would undo him. Your strength is not in how much you endure. It's in what you no longer allow. You no longer allow your time to be wasted, your values to be mocked, your vision to be diluted. You no longer chase chaos and call it love. You no longer apologize for having standards. You no longer stay where respect is a negotiation. This version of you, he's not afraid to walk away, not to play games, but because he knows what does not align must exit. He doesn't seek validation. He attracts alignment. He doesn't beg for loyalty. He embodies a presence that demands it. And the woman who's truly ready will rise to meet him, not because she's afraid of punishment, but because she sees what most don't. A man who does not bend cannot be broken. He's not performing confidence. He is confidence, built through trial, sharpened by betrayal, refined by solitude. And now, he no longer argues with people committed to misunderstanding him. He no longer trades peace for company. He no longer mistakes guilt for guidance. He simply says, "This is who I am. This is what I require. And I will not shrink to be chosen," because he's already chosen himself. That's the new face of strength. And in a world of emotional manipulation and mental noise, that kind of man becomes the gravity others orbit. No woman will ever save you, because it was never her job. You were not born to orbit her emotions. You were not designed to trade your fire for affection. You were not put here to negotiate your soul, just to feel needed. You were born to build, to lead, to choose, and sometimes to walk away, because a man who cannot walk away is a man who will be walked on. Let that sink in. Every time you lower your standards to be liked, you erase yourself. Every time you stay in chaos to avoid being alone, you delay your evolution. And every time you call dysfunction loyalty, you bury the man you were meant to become. No more. Machiavelli didn't write for boys chasing love. He wrote for rulers, men who move with precision, men who protect their kingdom, men who test before they trust. And now, it's your turn. Not to be harder, but to be clearer. Not to be colder, but to be calculated. Not to fear love, but to never kneel to it again. You want her respect, then fear losing your purpose more than you fear losing her. Because the man who fears losing a woman is already owned by her. But the man who fears losing himself owns the world. Let them call you toxic. Let them call you harsh. Let them misunderstand. The king is never loud. He doesn't beg.